Bum 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 bum. The Champions League. How did that fit? We need to try somehow play the theme song so that can be fitting, because that was the worst attempt ever.
No,
Not only
but
is my
I'm
mouse
so
falling,
happy.
but
I
I'm
am
trying-
so happy I now have on recording the world's worst attempt at the Champions League final theme song.
Mate, I don't know what came into my mind, but I thought I could try it with my swollen face.
You visualized that.
And I had the first instrument down.
Messi and Pogba just called me up and said they are quitting. They're never playing again because they watched you sing that.
Jesus, I don't know what came over me, but there you go. There's your highlight moment.
So
of
what
me
is this
singing.
clip that we're doing
So
then?
I guess we're talking about the Champions League final now, I guess.
It's a good idea.
If only we wouldn't get busted for copyright, I could have overplayed the actual music so it sounded like I was in tune, but I wasn't. So anyway, let's talk about what many people perhaps would have wished could have happened, which is El Clasico Final. As we know, we're one stage away from it. I know that I was looking forward to it. I said that I would have loved to have seen Ronaldo and Messi in their prime come together at the peak of European football and play against each other. It would have been something we could look back on for years and be like, wonder when both of them were at their best did they ever get to face each other in a Champions League final. That could have been it. But nonetheless, Juventus are very worthy opponents and they did well to get into the final. So I can't say that I am not excited still, but I still have that little bit of feeling in my stomach that was thinking, what would it have been like if it was an El Clasico final?
So I have a pros and cons list to the El Clasico
What one is
final
Pogba
versus and this is not a Pogba pumping clip, I promise you. This is more of the idea that when the El Clasico,
It's hard to not to see the El Clasico.
When El Clasico comes around, the twice a year that it does, it's a treat, it's a joy. It is, again, not just Ronaldo versus Messi. Look at the world-class talent on both the teams.
Yeah.
Any excuse to watch Neymar and Suarez, and even Gareth Bale when he's not running around like a Ronaldinho with his chicken, with his headless chicken something. You get it, and I think you get it too.
I think that's something he said there. Huh?
There's something about the mystique of it. There's something unique in the air, and we know that the viewers for TYT Sports love El Clasicos. The con to it, which there really isn't any, is that you don't get a true underdog because Real Madrid and Barcelona, doesn't matter who the odds favorite. We know when Juventus plays Barcelona, there's a true underdog here. It is Juventus. And even the teams like Monaco who made a run this year, if they were to somehow find their way into the Champions League final, people like rooting for an underdog. It creates a better story. It creates better memories. And of course, Barcelona has a rabid fan base, and so does Real Madrid. So the pro is you get an underdog. The con is you don't get Ronaldo and Bale and Benzema and everybody else that goes along with Real Madrid against Messi, Neymar, Suarez in what could have been a 7-6 Champions League final game.
And similar to what you said in terms of the odds, as much as many people would be like, oh, Barcelona have been a better team, when it comes to a one-off Champions League final, Atletico Madrid were the better team last year in terms of their season as a whole. Real Madrid won it because it's a one-off game. It's fantastic.
Poor Atletico can beat Real Madrid in regular season play, in tournament play, just not like when it matters most.
In the Champions League, yeah. And it's true. It's because it's such a one-off game, and it's a different... I talked about this before, and many people kind of overlooked it. You don't have the same Spanish referees who referee week in, week out in La Liga play and call everything for a fart, sneeze, or a burp. You get a free kick for that. In the Champions League, most of these referees... You might get one like that, but you might not. You might get someone who lets the game flow a bit more, and the game's not as disrupted, and it fits one team and not the other. The pace is different. The intensity of that one game is different. That's why I never take regular season play into account when it comes to especially two teams that play against each other. And it would have happened this year for Real Madrid and Barca. Yes, Barca have been the better team all season. I probably still would have favoured them, but by no means would that have meant that Real Madrid couldn't have won that game if they were there.
Look,
however,
sorry.
Juventus, it is a great testament to their team this season that they're in the Champions League final. They single-handedly are trying to turn around Italian football and bring them back into this league of elites with your Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Chelsea. Let's not forget that they did make a Champions League final. People are counting England out. Obviously, yes, it's not been the same consistency in the later stages, but Chelsea did win a few years back in that elite level. Now Juventus are trying to get Italian football back into that stage. So I am excited for that, and I would love to see Gigi Buffon lift the Champions League trophy and add to all of his accolades, including the World Cup, which he won in this stadium.
Yeah, there's a special moment with that. You made a great point about the idea that a one-off game, that anything can happen. Look, 2007, my football, New York Giants, severe underdogs going into that Super Bowl against the Patriots, who were undefeated. Looked like there's nothing that could stop them. And on one miraculous play, Eli Manning, the slowest quarterback in the league, I think, and still might be, finds a way to escape 15 guys closing in on him. Yeah. That's an exaggeration. There's about 4 guys. And chucking the ball downfield to a guy, David Tyree, who catches it on his helmet and leads to an open touchdown the next play, or next 2 plays later. And they beat an undefeated team. Barcelona's not undefeated, but they look like they can't lose.
Yeah.
And even if Real Madrid was playing them instead of Juventus, like, anything can happen. We just went through, and there's a clip you can click on. I'm going to put it right, actually, here. My bad. On our Champions League favorite moments.
Yeah.
And we talk about those.
And that's a clear example of what we talked about between the difference in regular season play and when just more is at stake. Because with New England and the Giants, very close rivals, don't like each other very much. When it came to a Super Bowl final, I'm sure there was so much more intensity on that game, so much more hatred than usual. And that would have been the exact same for an El Clasico Champions League final, because both of these teams, at their peak of their hatred, could never imagine how much they would dislike each other when it comes to the Champions League final.
Sometimes it just sucks that somebody has to lose.
I know.
Some team has to lose.
Yeah.
Somebody walks off the pitch unhappy. Look at the World Cup final.
I know.
After all, not just what Messi did, the team has other players besides Messi, but so close.
Yeah.
So close. In a one-off game, Germany was the better team.
Yeah, and it's
Germany, I think, might have been the better team anyway. But
and that's why, and I would never want anyone ever to say that we should change the Champions League final to 2 legs or whatever. And I love the NBA.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that me and you've talked about, I love the NBA playoff series. I would just make the games shorter. And that's one thing that takes away from it a little bit to me, is that you don't really you do get that one pinnacle game which decides it a lot of the time, and you do get that situation, but sometimes it can be a blowout, and you're like, okay, it's already done. But when it's a one-off game, there's just something so in the air that any slip could cut. Like if Messi doesn't have one of his most magnificent days, then Juventus, they grow in confidence, and they're like, wow, we can win this game.
Well, it's an interesting point you make there. 2 different American sport, basketball, when it comes to the NBA playoff structure, especially the NBA Finals. You get a Game 7, it does not matter what happened in the 6 previous games. Doesn't matter who won which ones first.
Yeah.
It's 3-3, and then it becomes a best of 1.
Yeah.
Same as the Champions League. When there's 2 legs, after an entire tournament of playing to win Europe's best competition, or technically the world's best competition when they're not in a World Cup year, the Champions League, it's a best of 1.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Yep.
Anything can happen.
And that's why you get random underdogs like Porto winning it under Jose Mourinho's ingenious plan to go all the way through against Monaco in the final. And that's why we love it. That's why, as much as I do love the World Cup, obviously, I think the same thing with the World Cup is that it's special because it's every 4 years. The Champions League never gets any less special. The Champions League final is always memorable. June 6th, this Saturday, we'll be bringing you a recap of it. But we want to know, do you guys think it would have been better if it was an El Clasico final? I know you Juventus fans out there will already be saying, no, we're happy to be there. And congratulations to those guys. I'm really looking forward to this game. Leave your comments, predictions, everything in the section below. Stay tuned to TIT Sports. As I mentioned, recap will be coming right after the game. Subscribe. It is free.
Bum, 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 bum. Champions.
Bum, 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 bum. The Champions League.
Bum, 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 bum.
Bum, 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 bum.
Bum, 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 bum.
The Champions League.